19 points, 13 rebounds for Ben Simmons. The Philadelphia 76ers live to fight another day in this postseason. Getting their first win of the second-round series against the Boston Celtics. Steve Smith, Isaiah Thomas, Chris Miles here with you. Were you impressed by this win from Philadelphia?
Yeah, I was impressed. They came out, they played, they competed. They didn't turn the basketball over, Isaiah, and that was a big key for them. They had been turning it over, especially in the third and fourth quarters and overtime of games. And they came out and played a solid game throughout. And I love the energy T.J. McConnell brought to the game, and I think it relieved Ben Simmons of some pressure of handling the basketball, making plays. And they just flat out defensively played much better.
Yeah, they did. And you have to give, the coach a lot of credit for making, I thought, a pretty gutsy move, and inserting, TJ into, the starting lineup. Reasons why we couldn't figure out, but at the end of the day, it worked. TJ comes up, with a career high, playoff career high 21 points. And as you said, it took the ball out of Ben Simmons' hands. And not only did it take it out of his hands, but it allowed Ben Simmons to score the basketball a little bit more too. So, having TJ run the offense, having his savviness out there, was one of the more positive things that happened for the 76ers and really put them back in a position where now they can go to Boston and try to steal one in Boston.
Well, T.J. McConnell was averaging just 12 minutes per game in this series. He played 38. His career high for any game he set in this particular game with 19 points. And then he also started one single game during the entire regular season. This, of course, his first postseason start. So those are just some incredible things that T.J. McConnell, unlikely things he was able to accomplish. But one of the reasons maybe that Brett Brown plugged him into the starting lineup, Robert Covington, struggling from the field, 1 for 7 tonight, shot 27% so far in the series from the field and 25% from three-point range. When you have Ben Simmons on the court and you have a guy struggling to find his shot, maybe having another ball handler works well.
Well, I think so. I think obviously Covington has been struggling, but I think it was more to help Ben Simmons more than Covington. I think he got a chance to take the ball out of Ben Simmons' hand. He could run free. He got a chance to be a finisher versus a guy who came out and trying to set the table. Also, TJ played extremely well. He had 19, 7, and 5, and no turnovers, Isaiah.
Yeah.
That's pretty big time facing the Boston Celtics defense with all those athletes and the pressure they put on the ball.
And they say KYP, know your personnel.
Okay.
And you don't know a player until you really coach him. And, Coach Brown knew what he had in T.J. McConnell, and he knew how to tinker with his team at the right moment, because clearly this could have exploded in their face and they could have got swept tonight. But he put the people out on the floor that he could trust. Not necessarily the most talented or the most athletic or the best players, but the people that he could trust. So what you talked about, Smitty, and making sure that you don't have turnovers, a lot of turnovers in a playoff game, closeout game, the thing you don't want to do is turn the ball over and give that opponent, some easy transition baskets, and they didn't do that tonight.
In the history of the NBA, we've heard it before, no team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit, right? It's 129-0. But Brett Brown said after they lost that Game 3, why not us? It starts with a single game. If you're in that locker room, you're a player on that team, and your coach says something like that, do you believe it?
Well, tonight I do, because now we've won a game in Philly, and all I'm saying now is I got to win one game in Boston. And this is my chance to go back and win that game in Boston. And all the pressure right now is really going to be on the Celtics. The Celtics got to close out at home. So the pressure really shifts. Philly is going there with nothing to lose. Everybody's expecting them to lose the game. So if they win in Boston, now they come back and you're going to eventually have a Game 7. Because if they win in Boston, they'll come back and win in Philly. And then they got to go back to Boston for a Game 7. So the key for Boston right now, if you don't want to have a Game 7, you got to close out. Because if you don't close out at home, you're going to have a Game 7. And that's a lot of pressure on the home team, the Celtics, right now.
Sounds like a change or a transfer of energy is what Isaiah is talking about there, and you believe in that.
Yeah, I do. And also to add to Isaiah, you look at this team for the Boston Celtics, and Brad and those group of guys have done everything. A little bit of fatigue will set in right now as well because they're missing bodies. And I think also psychologically, they're still a young team. They have Al Horford and Morris, But most of those guys are young, and if you start thinking about a Game 7, that psyche will play on them, and war with that energy come from Philadelphia. And I think, like you said, Isaiah, if they had a Game 6 in Philly, the fans would be going crazy. They could just play off energy. They got to come out in that first 7 to 8 minutes of that first quarter of the next game. It's going to be huge.
Yes.
First 3 games of this series, the Celtics outscored the 76ers by 55 points when Ben Simmons is on the court. Does that surprise you that the Celtics have been that dominant over Philadelphia when Ben Simmons is playing?
Yeah, that has. That's surprising, but obviously, you know, Ben has been struggling offensively. And whatever the numbers are, I'm going by them wins and losses. They were down 0-3. So I look at it, when you start to get into playoff basketball, yes, Ben has struggled individually, but the Sixers as a group has struggled. And the reason why was the Celtics, the way they've been playing, and Jason Tatum and Al Horford and those guys getting after scrapping. So I think today is taking this Ben Simmons, like I said earlier, out of a decision maker, putting him in a pressure situation where we want you to score. We're going to pitch ahead, you score, you score. He still wants to pass first, but you can see with 19 points he had a better outing offensively.